All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother, like Israel of the house of the faith, and I count it a blessing each and every single time that I can come forward to preach the word of God, and never do count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to get right into today's topic, and the topic is dealing with when wicked people rule. Okay, the title is "When the Wicked Rule." And what put it on my mind is after just watching the Democratic debate in Detroit and all the fervor that's happening right now because of the political implications for the upcoming election. And when you really look at the leadership, not just the current president, but presidents and leaders prior, and even leaders of Israel. One thing is clear is that the wicked have been ruling. And I just want to read some things that the Bible says about when the wicked rule. Okay. But before I get to the wicked, let's go to Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter. Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter, because here in Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter, we see in the Torah the instruction concerning when Israel would ask for a king and the king would come. Let's see one of the things that he had to do. This is Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter and 17th chapter and verse 18. It says, "And it shall be when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priests, the Levites." Okay, so one thing he had to do, he had to make his own copy of the Torah, okay, which is instruction. So you would think that it would just be the Levites or the priests that's dealing with the law of God, but no, it was a theocracy, so to speak, and you had to know and rule according to what God put in place. So again, it says, "And it shall be when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this book, copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priests, the Levites." And we're going to find out why he would do that. Verse 19, "And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God." Okay, so in order to show reverence to God, to fear God, he had to write it down, and it says to keep all the words of this law and these statutes, to do them. Hold your finger here. Let's hold our finger here. And we want to pick it up in 1 second. Just to show you. This is one moment. This is 2 Kings, the 22nd chapter. And just to show you how far Israel had failed since the time that was written, and by the time Josiah, who was prophesied, would come and be a reformer, because he put a lot of things in order. But let's see something. I'm in 2 Kings, the 22nd chapter, because we read that the king was supposed to make his own copy of the law. 2 Kings, the 22nd chapter and verse 8. And it says, "And Hilkiah the high priest said unto Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord." That's the temple. "And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. And Shaphan the scribe came to the king and brought the king word again and said, Thy servants have gathered the money that was found in the house and have delivered it into the hand of them that do the work, that have the oversight of the house of the Lord." So he's repairing the temple, which was good. Then it says, so it was on his heart to reform. Then it says, "And Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest have delivered me a book." And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he rent his clothes Why did he rend his clothes? Because he had the knowledge of sin, and he saw the people were in error, and everybody was in error. He rent his clothes like in mourning, and then he went to reform it, okay? Because everything was out of order. So he went on to reform, a legal reformation. But now back to Deuteronomy 17 chapter. That's just to show you how far they had gone. So it went from the king having to write a copy of the law, and then the high priest come and say, "Hey, we found a copy of the book of the law." They had fell so far from it. They had all kind of peace to you, Brother El, and peace to you, Mala. Peace to you. They had all kinds of false worship going on. They had sodomites next to the temple, and when people read that, oftentimes they don't understand that those sodomites next to the temple, oftentimes that sodomy was associated with the worship of false gods. You oftentimes see in antiquity, in pagan spiritual systems, that they had temple prostitution of males and females and males, and that kind of thing was going on even in Israel. You saw in some cases they were worshiping Baal. They were offering their kids up to the god, sacrificing them to the god Molech. They were engaged. The Queen of Heaven, they were dealing with him. Tammuz, they worshiping. They were dealing with all kinds of false worship. Okay, but Deuteronomy 17. So the king had to write out the Torah. Then it says, why? It says, and it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, and to keep all the words of the law and these statutes to do them. Okay? Why? So, because that's what's showing you what the right thing to do is. Let's go to Psalms, the 119th division. Psalms 119th division. I'm going to pick it up at verse 172. Psalms 119 and 172. And this is what this king had, a heart like God. Okay. Now this is David. Let's see, before we go there, let's see something he says. This is Psalms 119, still in this acoustic psalm, and we're going to pick it up in 97. Psalms 119 and 97. This is what David said. He said, "Oh, how love I thy law. It is my meditation all the day." Okay, so he's constantly focused on meditating upon Torah. It says, "Thou through thy commandments has made me wiser than mine enemies, for they are ever with me. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation. I understand more than the ancients, because I keep thy precepts." See, if you won't understand and seek God, and he'll give it to you. Understand, he is omniscient, all-knowing. So when he writes something down, it's not like when we write books or we rewrite things down, things change. You are dealing with a being or a being that basically there's no limits to his understanding. So you are getting insight into how he thinks. So that wisdom trumps all of what the philosophers of Greece and the sages of any culture, of Babylon, of Egypt, and their mystery school. It trumps all that. It trumps all that. And so now you acquire that wisdom. So, but then he says, "I have not departed from thy judgments, for thou hast taught me." He says in verse 104, "Through thy precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way." Psalms 119 and 172, because he tells you what the commandment is. He says, "My tongue shall speak of thy word, for all thy commandments are righteousness." See, if you want to know the hardest thing about ruling, if you want to do it the right way, is to understand what is right. And after watching these debates, one thing is very clear. These people have no idea about what righteousness is. They don't know what morality is, because their morality is not based on what the Bible says, what the Torah says. So therefore, they can have it in one case, but it be clear in left field in another. So you want Medicare for all, but you want to say a woman has unchecked right to choose. See, that's how you know people don't have a clue about what is right. When you were denied a personhood of a child in the womb, the most vulnerable of us, and advocate that child can be killed. See, they don't have an understanding. And the same thing on the other side, because the other side could say, and for their own reasons, they could say, well, you know, abortion is wrong, but then on the other hand, oppress the poor. See, these people don't have a clue about what more true morality or how to govern morally, because they don't have a moral compass. The moral compass is based on how they feel. The moral compass is based upon political expedience. The moral compass is based upon flawed ideologies that have been made by men. Oftentimes men who didn't believe in God, or but not even have a good understanding of who God is. They didn't believe in God, period. So now he says in 151, and he said, "Thou art near, O Lord, and all thy commandments are true." So he said his commandments are true. He says, concerning thy testimonies I have known of old, that thou hast founded them forever. Then he says in 172, for all thy commandments are righteousness. So now you think about that. The commandment is the truth, and the word there is mitzvah. And then it says his commandments are righteousness. So now you ruling according to that. That's a whole different outlook on situations. That's totally different from what's going on now. And it's such a disingenuous approach to things. It's so you can see straight through it. Everybody's trying to act like they really give a damn. They don't care about the people for the most part. You can tell by how you can look at the record and tell. They might have got into it again, even if they got into it and they were on the up and up. When you in Washington that long, and when you rise, you understand that you got to make deals. They tell their constituents one thing, they go in those back rooms and make a deal. Why? Because they want to stay in office. And you got to think about it. Why in the world would you want to stay in office for these jobs? You might not be getting that much money. Look at all the money that they get, especially if you're a president. I remember I saw Michelle Obama speak, and I saw her in person, and I listened, and one thing she said, you know, we still got, what did she say? She said, we still have our college student loan debts. Not anymore. I seriously doubt that now. Hundreds of millions, because people pay for your access. You look at what's going on with the governor. Listen, that stuff goes as far as when he left that seat, when the former president left that seat. He said, it seemed like he said, I'm not giving it away for free. But that's the norm. That's the norm. Let's go to Proverbs, the 28th chapter. Don't put your stock in these people. Especially our people. Our solution is getting back to our God. Getting back to the Most High. That's our solution to our problem. Because when you look, as long as I've been alive, when I was a child, for the earliest years, Reagan wasn't president. Our people was in disarray. The hood was messed up, flooded with crack. Then it was Bush. You had war. Our neighborhoods messed up, flooded with drugs and poverty. Then you had Clinton. Now you had some of the most racist policies affecting the so-called Negro ever. And then you had Bush, some more years. How that took place? How you think? You act like these people getting in on their own merit. The whole game is rigged. The whole game is rigged. When you look at the one, just give you an example of what I'm talking about. I believe that was in 2004. All the candidates better out than John Kerry and George W. Bush. Well, wait a minute. Are they in the same secret society? And then I'm paraphrasing one of the news anchor, he asked him, or journalist asked him, you guys are in the same secret society? He said, yeah, but I can't talk about that. So they just yield in power, in money. And the people all through the then who got in? Then you had Barack Obama. Now you got Trump. One thing about it, black people they ain't been in a good situation overall. You can say, well, the highest unemployment rate is lowest amongst African Americans. Listen, Negroes out here still suffering. Look at the pockets of us where we located. We don't have wealth. You can talk about getting some poo-butt job. We do not have wealth. What we have, what is it? A few thousand compared, as far as a net wealth of a few thousand compared to a family, a comparable white family, so 100,000. This is Proverbs the 28th chapter, verse 15. It says, as a roaring lion and a raging bear, so is a wicked ruler over the poor people. See, one thing about it, those who don't have are going to suffer when the wicked rule. That's what's going to happen. And that's what's been happening. The wicked suffer. Let's go to Isaiah, the first chapter. And here, the same thing was going on amongst the rulers in Israel. It says, the princes are rebellious and companions of thieves. So now those in rulership, they rebels, and they just like thieves, companions of thieves. Everyone loveth gifts and followeth after rewards. They judge not the fatherless, neither doth the cause of the widow come unto them. They not thinking about you. They're not thinking about the poor. But now let's go to Psalms, the 82nd chapter, because that was the call that he made. This is Psalms 82 and verse 1. It says, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. Okay, so now he's talking about the people when he says this. Then he asks a question. How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? How long will you judge unjustly? Why are you making false judgments or shady judgment? Because you're getting money. Because you're getting money. I know of occasion that somebody who got caught selling drugs and got out of it. You know how I got out of it? Paid the judge $20,000. That's how he got out of it, through his lawyer. So it says, how long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? It said, defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. That's just another example, just shady business. Remember on the East Coast, they were putting all these kids in juvenile in this prison, the judge getting kickbacks. Same mentality. So I said, how long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? He tells you what you should do. He says, defend the poor and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked. That's what God can do. And he's saying, listen, he's all powerful. He's omnipotent in addition to being omniscient. He's all powerful, and that's what he can do. And he's telling those in power, that's what you should do as well. But when you look at the policies of these people that's gonna run this country, that's how you know it's on its way down. When you look and see, okay, this who y'all choosing from? All right. You know that that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. He says, they know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. Everything is upside down. And it's not just here. You look at the world, period. Where in the countries that say they're democratic, you have all kinds of injustice going on amongst the leadership. You go throughout Latin America, you had the same thing. I remember a brother he was Latino brother. He was doing some work at the church when we was first opening, and he was talking about how, hey, them cops come, and when you traveling through Mexico, them cops come. You got to pay. You got to break them off. You got to break them off some money if they pull you over. This all is from. My father was talking about that the other day. He told me I was talking to. He said he got a guy pulled him. It was years ago. Pulled him over. The cop pulled him over, and the cop straight up wanted some money. My father wouldn't give it to us. He ended up going to court. He ended up losing. They had to pay court costs, but the cop wanted some money. He said, "Man, I ain't paying you nothing. Just give me the ticket." So that goes from local level all the way up to the upper echelons of government. Then you look at these leaders in these countries just poverty ridden, and then the leader have billions of dollars. Some of these dictators. How you got billions of dollars off the people, and the people making $2-3 a day? He says, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. He said, defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy. Right? So then America can say, yeah, this is a land of democracy. How could you do that? Mate, America has killed like 60 million babies. They fatherless. So you can't look at them and say, oh, look at these animals, these people are beneath us. I can't believe we're gonna go and invade and steal their resources. Man, it's corruption all over. But he said, they know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. Let's go to back to Isaiah, the 3rd chapter. Because when it's all said and done, judgment is going to come. It says in verse 14, the Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people. You see the example of Israel and what happened to them. So I'll give you an example of that. So he said, the Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof, for ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor is in your houses. So you stealing the money. Let's go to we can hold our figure in. No, that's okay. We'll go to I want to just show you an example of that. This is 2 Chronicles, the 36th chapter, where he can go into judgment with the ruler. 2 Chronicles 36 and verse 10, it says, and when the year was expired, King Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon with the goodly vessels of the house of the Lord, and made Zedekiah his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem. So now to him, he's talking about the last 3 kings were Jehoiakim, and Zedekiah. Okay, so now he's talking about Jehoiakim in this case, and he made Zedekiah king. And understand, these kings were evil, because just so you know, in verse 9 it says, Jehoiakim was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days. In Jerusalem, he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. Now, 11. Zedekiah was 1 and 20 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet. Why? Because Jeremiah the prophet was telling him what the Lord said. He said, man, you better submit. And they weren't trying to hear Jeremiah. They put him in prison. But he was bringing the word of the Lord. That's just nobody want to hear that many take care of your farsi. Nobody wants to hear you've been weighed in the balance and found wanted. Nobody wants to hear your time is up. Nobody want to hear that. But he says, he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord his God and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of the Lord. And he also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear by God, but he stiffened his neck and hardened his heart from turning unto the Lord God of Israel. Okay, so now let's go. I want to show you specifically what happened to him. Let's go to 2 Kings, because it goes into detail about what happened to him. Israel went into captivity, but something terrible happened to Zedekiah. This is 2 Kings 25 and verse 6. Okay, so it says, so they took the king. This is, because they invaded in 586. It says eventually, and they took Zedekiah. They were trying to rule. They were trying to just keep these kings there and just tell them do what we say. It got to a point, are y'all gonna rebel against me? Nebuchadnezzar said, I'm coming. So it says in verse 6, so they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him. Okay. Then it says, and they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes and put out the eyes of Zedekiah and bound him with fetters of brass and carried him to Babylon. You understand? So what they do, man, they took his son. The last thing he saw was his sons getting killed. They took his sons, killed his sons before his eyes, then plucked the man's eyes out. Think about that. Then it took him in chains to Babylon. He stiffened his neck against what the Lord said. See, judgment will come. And sometimes people will die and say, well, it's coming. They don't realize it, though. See, it's going to come one way or the other. But, so Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, verse 14, it says, the Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof, for ye have eaten up the vineyard, and spoil of the poor is in your houses. So you done stole from the people. See, that's the motivation of these leaders. It's about getting paid. They don't care about the people. And even if some do care about the people, if you don't have the moral compass, which is Torah, you don't even understand how to rule. Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter, I'm going to pick it up in verse 25. Here, the prophet says something about the people, the rulers in Israel. It says, there is a conspiracy of our prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. They have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure and precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. So now, when you talk about leadership and rulership amongst the people of Israel, which was what they would call today likened to a theocracy, those spiritual leaders are leaders as well. Okay? And a similar thing when you look in American society today, in particular, especially amongst our people, the leaders are who are ruling over the people, not politically, but spiritually directing the people, are these false prophets, these false ministers and so-called teachers and bishops. He says, her priests have violated my law. That's what they've done. They've done away with the law. And they're going to have to pay for that. But so are the people. And the people are paying for it because from their direction, their spiritual direction, people are going the complete opposite direction in which they should be going. And that's why their lives look the way that they do. That's why our neighborhoods look the way that they do. That's why collectively we as a people are on the bottom, because we have leaders, right, political, that don't care about us, and then these spiritual leaders that certainly don't care about us. So it says, her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane. Neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean. They say the law is no more. So if the law is no more, we read that the commandment is righteousness. The commandment is the truth. So you thrown the truth to the side. You put away righteousness and you teach according to the doctrines and commandments of men. And that's why the vast majority of people are on their way to hell. That's why the world, everything is out of order. That's why. So it says, her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane. Neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profane among them. Is one, he was even talking about what a real Christian would do. And he a homosexual. He take every opportunity. Every time I've seen him, he take an opportunity to basically to talk about the Bible, right? And talk about Christianity and talk about this. But you don't know what you should do even in your personal life. You sitting up there and you married to a man. Obviously, your moral compass is messed up. Very eloquent. But that doesn't mean anything when it comes to how to rule, how to write, because you don't know, you don't know what's right or wrong. Now I say, you got people that don't know, and again, the more secularized the country becomes. I'm not saying this was a country that was righteous, but when you look at the fall that this country is taking morally and what's acceptable, what's happening, that's how you know it's over. Eventually, that cup of iniquity is going to reach its brim. That's what's about to happen. The imminent fall. So it says, her princes in the midst thereof are like wolves, ravening the prey to shed blood and to destroy souls, to get dishonest gain. See, it's all about getting money. That's what it's all about. It says, and her prophets have daubed them with untempered mortar, seeing vanity and divining lies unto them, saying, thus saith the Lord God, when the Lord have not spoken. So the Lord haven't spoken, but they talk, these spiritual leaders saying, the Lord said this, the Lord said that. He has not spoken. I want to read some here in give me 1 second. See, I always say we don't have leaders today. We don't have leaders today. Give me 1 second. We don't have any leaders today. Come on. This is Jeremiah, the 23rd chapter. He says something here. He says, talking about these prophets, right? He says, listen, in Ezekiel, the 23rd chapter, or the 22nd chapter, he says, the prophets, they divine and lies unto them, saying, thus saith the Lord, when the Lord had not spoken. He says, in verse Jeremiah 23, Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, as they called him, he says, in verse 21, I have not sent, well, it says in verse 20, the anger of the Lord shall not return until he hath executed, until he hath performed the thoughts of his heart. In the latter days ye shall consider it perfectly. He says, I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. So now they talking about what thus said the Lord. These ministers, the Lord talked to me and told me, man, if he was talking to you, why you ain't tell you that these people in sin, you need to clean them up? that they need to turn back to God. Tell them who they are as a people. A lot of these ministers know and known for a long time. I saw one out of Chicago, man, he danced around the issue so much of who Israel was, it was to the point where I thought he was about to spring it. He had thousands of people in it. I mean, he had a huge congregation. I said, he's certainly going to tell these people. Because if you know that he know. But then he just left it. They don't care about the people. He said, but if they had stood in my counsel that caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their doings. Just like the one you read about in Malachi, how the one coming in the spirit of the prophet Elijah in the days of old, talking about John the Baptist, it's going to happen again. Go turn the people back to God. That's what the people need. That's what the people need. Got all kind of leaders leading you astray. Blind leaders of the blind. When the blind lead the blind, they both shall fall in the ditch. Ezekiel 22 and verse 29, it said, the people of the land have used oppression and exercised robbery that have vexed the poor and needy. Yea, they have oppressed the stranger wrongfully. So they taking advantage of the people. But their motivation, brothers and sisters, to do this is to get paid. That's what it's about. It's about the money. That's why I said, even money, just hold your finger. Well, I can tell you where to go yet, but go to James real quick. This is James. I'm going to pick it up in chapter 2. This should show you the mentality of people. He said, my brother, in verse 1, have not the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord our God, with respect of persons. For there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring and a goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man of vile raiment. And ye have respect to him that wear the gay clothing, and say unto him, sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor, stand thou there, or sit here under my footstool. Are ye not then partial in yourselves, and are become judges of evil thoughts? Hearken, my beloved brethren, hath not God chosen the poor of this world rich in faith? See, that's just like Israel. We wealthy, but we poor. We wealthy because of, like Paul said, what advantage does have the Jew? What profit is there of circumcision? Much chiefly in every way, for unto them who committed the oracles of God. See, that's how we rich, but we broke monetarily, fiscally. So I said, hearken, my beloved brother, have not God chosen the poor of this world rich in faith, and heirs of the kingdom which he hath promised to them that love him? But ye have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seats? So there's an issue there. He said, listen, it's not about that money, but that's the motivation of most people. Micah, the 3rd chapter. And that's the motivation of the ones in leadership. Micah, the 3rd chapter, and verse 9. He says, hear this, I pray you, ye judges of the house of Jacob, and princes of the house of Israel. So now he's talking to the leaders, and he says something. He says that abhor judgment and pervert all equity. What does it mean to abhor? I mean, they hate justice. Even in this country, that justice, that so-called justice is blind. That woman that had she got the balances, but coming there with some money. That little blindfold, she gonna pull that little blindfold. Oh, he over there. Was going to lean to his side then. That's how it worked. It say that they build up Zion with blood and Jerusalem with iniquity. Talking about judgment and as far as money, how money goes. It's just like if you poor in this country and you get pulled over. Who was I talking to about this the other day? It's recent, I can't remember, but I went into a government building to get something. It wasn't a court case or nothing like that. It was just to get a copy of something. And all I saw was our people in there going in there, paying tickets, going to court, feeding the beast. And then the white folks was in there as the lawyers, as the clerks, as the judges. And we running in there paying all this stuff. You go in black neighborhoods, they got all these speed traps, they got all these ordinances, and they basically fund their departments off our backs, but at the same time don't protect our community. But you want to write all these damn tickets and put poor people in jail, and then when they get in jail, they ain't got the money to get out, so they can't get out. Now they stuck there over a ticket, and no telling what could happen in there. They could be in there for a minute, they end up losing their job, getting evicted on some BS. But have some money, you can get out of, like the Bible said, money and defense, it'll get you out of all kinds of situations. You know the right people, you grease the right palms, you can get out of some situations. Rules automatically ain't all of a sudden ain't no rule. I done seen that. When people they got all these rules and they so upset. Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. Let you have some money though. It said they build up Zion with blood and Jerusalem with iniquity. The heads, so here's their motivation. It says the heads thereof judge for reward. And the priests thereof teach for hire. And the prophets thereof divine for money. Yet will they lean upon the Lord and say, is not the Lord among us? None evil can come upon us. Hold the finger here. We coming right back. Let's go to Isaiah the 10th chapter. Isaiah the 10th chapter. See, that's their motivation. He says something here in Isaiah the 10th chapter. The prophet writes, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that right grievances which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. Verse 9 said, hold on one second. Yeah, that was it. Now let's go back to verse in Micah. Micah, the 3rd chapter, at verse 9. So he said, hear this, I pray you, ye heads of the house of Jacob and princes of the house of Israel, that abhor judgment and pervert all equity. You're perversion. You pervert equity. He said, they build up Zion with blood and Jerusalem with iniquity, and heads thereof judge for reward, and the priests thereof teach for hire. Meaning, the judgment will go your way if you give me some money. He said, and the priests thereof teach for hire. They teach not out of the sincerity of their heart, because of the benefit of the people. They want some money. That's why he called him in Isaiah the 56th chapter. What he said about him? He said, his watchmen are blind, they are all ignorant, they are all dumb dogs that cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. Yea, they are greedy dogs which can never have enough. And they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look to their own way, everyone for his gain from his quarter. This is leadership as well. So it said that in verse 11 again, Micah 11 and Micah 3 and 11, excuse me. It says the heads thereof judge for reward, and the priests thereof teach for hire, and the prophets thereof divine for money. Yet will they lean upon the Lord and say, is not the Lord among us? None evil can come upon us, but evil is coming upon you. You cannot continue being wicked and expect everything to work out for you. At some point, judgment is going to come. And it came for the children of Israel. That's why I said in verse 12, therefore shall Zion for your sake be plowed as a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountain of the house as the high places of the forest. See, so destruction came. And I'm here to tell you that destruction is coming upon this place. Destruction is coming upon the world. You're not going to have peace until you have true leadership. Let's go to, hold our finger here, and let's go to Revelation 11th chapter. See, you're going to have turmoil and pain, and people going to be oppressed. If you look at how to, see, as bad as it can be for our people, when you look at the world, brothers and sisters, and how the vast majority of the inhabitants of this country live, oppression is rampant. You got people, matter of fact, just on a side note, we need, as a people, need to get on our sisters missing in the streets. We got so many missing women, missing girls, missing children, but a lot of female, they being trafficked. All kind of stuff is happening. But that human trafficking, you got millions of people in sexual slavery today. You got billions of people who don't have access, not just in Flint, billions of people that don't have access to clean drinking water. Why? Because of oppression. When you look at Europe, how in the world Europe don't have many resources, but they got all the money? Why? Because they just stole all the damn resources from Africa. Oppression. Then they will put some despot, some dictator in place. They do it in Africa. They do it in Asia. They do it in Latin America. And they let him. He don't have any scruples. He'll rob the people. And the ones that really cared about the people, that were sincere. Because some people, they might not have toil, but they were sincere. They had him killed. They'll ruin the election, but they want to talk about Russia. If that happened, look at what you've done to all these other nations. Well, you made sure somebody didn't get elected. When you were behind getting somebody assassinated, or stirring up the pot, because in every country you have factions. You have one you look at what's going on right now. Either you love the president or you think he the scum of the earth. Now, Revelation 11th chapter, because we're not going to have good leadership until, as Genesis says, to Shiloh come, to whom it is, or to whom, that means to whom it is, or to whom it belongs. To the true king come. Verse 15, it says, and the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in the heavens saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Let's go to Micah the 3rd. Yeah, I don't know what you on, brother. Micah the 3rd chapter. I don't know what's going on. Hope we talking about a 6-piece or something. Micah the 3rd chapter. What's up, brother? Brother Eula, brother Albert, and brother Willie. Brother Sanders, brother Isaiah. He said England is going back to the island for the young men and women to join their military. Yeah, they need you. They need you. They got it's a kind of I've heard it's a shortage here. I heard special forces. Somebody in the special force. He might have been a Navy SEAL. He was talking about that when he gets to the upper echelons, it's a true shortage in the military. But nevertheless, Micah the 3rd chapter and verse, the 4th chapter. I told you, hold your finger there. Micah the 4th chapter. Yeah, they want us to go and be the fodder in the wars. That's who died in war. Poor people, poor working class people. Disproportionately. Look at black people going to Vietnam, disproportionately. Poor people in general, they go and you fight these wars, and these wars, they stealing. You going over to these other countries invading. You going to some other country invading the country, ensuring that the resources can be extracted out. People going over there fighting, they don't even know what they're fighting for. They fighting for a GI Bill. They fighting for They fight because they didn't know what to do out of high school. So they said, let me go to the military. They'll pay for my school. Ain't nothing free. Ain't nothing free. Love ain't free. Ain't nothing free. You gonna pay. Whether you pay with your life, whether you pay with some limbs, whether you pay with things that you had to do, whether you pay with your sanity and PTSD, nothing's free. Micah, the 4th chapter, verse 1. I got family that didn't been to war. I got family who come back, they left their mind in Vietnam. I got family, they got hooked on heroin in Vietnam. Micah, the 4th chapter, verse 1. Man, Cuba have a long history since Castro of being about the people, actually. As far as they, not saying they righteous as far as Torah, but when you look in a lot of different cases, in a lot of ways, they're about the people. Chapter 4, education and healthcare, ain't no man. People say what they want about Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro done more for the African continent than most people, period. Than anybody you can think of. Sending troops to fight anti-colonial revolutions, to send funds to help Nelson Mandela. They had one of the best healthcare systems in the world, and African so-called Negroes can go there and be trained to become doctors and for free, except ain't nothing free. They say go back and help your people. But Micah, the 4th chapter, verse 1, because this is the only time when you're gonna have some true leadership. When he rules, not the wicked. He didn't put down all principalities, all powers. It said, but in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains. And it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Like I said, and the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Verse 2, and many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, not Washington, D.C., not Brussels, not Rome. It says, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Okay? So that's when you're going to have some peace, brothers and sisters. That's when you're going to have some peace. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we at the House of the Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. If you've been edified by the ministry, all praise to the Most High, Brother Isaiah. If you've been edified through the ministry, you can leave a donation at our website, again, israelteach.org. 100% of the proceeds go to the work of the ministry, not to us. We don't get paid. I also want to remind you that books are available. Into Egypt Again with Ships, Message to the Forgotten Israelites, African Americans, Killing Black Innocents, the program to control African American reproduction from slavery's end to the present day self-inflicted genocide, Hair Like Wool, Feet Like Burned Brass, The Color of Jesus and Burning Truths Concerning the Messiah, The Pagan Origins of Christian Holidays, and the latest book, For Then Shall Be Great Tribulation. And with that, brothers and sisters, I'm going to end it there. And it's put your hope in God. Put your hope in the Most High. All praise to the Most High. Put your trust in Him. And with that, it's always my prayer that you will edify.